Well, hello, hello. I am so excited to be back on for day two of this amazing live stream series. Going from ideal to income requires us to get out of our way, and I decided to show up and really empower those who are thinking about making that journey from corporate to entrepreneur. I have curated this series because I find that many high achieving corporate women are sitting on powerful business ideas. They're struggling to figure out what to build, and they're struggling to figure out how to start. And in this experience, I do want to continue to reiterate it is not about jumping ship, it's about launching the right business with clarity, purpose, and strategy. And so I really wanted to show up and really empower you and encourage you to go to your next level. The right business with clarity, purpose, and strategy is what you're used to. You're used to doing business that way. And so I want to offer you some guidance on how you can begin to think about what it will take to launch your own business. I wanted to offer this guide over the course of this 3-day experience that speaks directly to where you are, and it also encourages you to move forward with confidence. Now, the first day of this 3-day journey actually started yesterday. On yesterday, we talked about why you feel stuck. On today, we're going to talk about what business to start and how to think about starting that business. And on tomorrow, we're going to wrap it up with how to move with strategy. And so if you have not had a chance to register so that you could get reminders and register so that you also can get my free clarity checklist, I want you to go to www.jointhelivestream.live. And when you register there, you're going to get a reminder to join me tomorrow. And you're also going to get access to the replays so that you can take some time with this. I know sometimes when you're doing things over lunch, you're trying to multitask and cover a lot of ground in different ways. And so I want you to get the replays. I want you to absolutely get the clarity checklist that I'm going to give you as a bonus. And I want you to get a reminder to join me tomorrow. This experience has been incredible so far. It has been refreshing to be back at the mic, sharing from my insight and experience, sharing perspectives on how corporate women truly can launch the right business. Now, as a recap, on day number 1, which was yesterday, we talked about why smart, successful women stay stuck. And we also talked about how to get unstuck. You see, when I made the decision to help smart, successful, professional women start businesses, I knew that the biggest obstacle was not going to be knowledge. I knew that it was going to be conditioning. When women are successful, especially when we have spent years climbing the corporate ladder, we have spent years exceeding expectation, and all the while making it look effortless. What happens in those particular situations is we become conditioned to performing in that way. And somewhere along the way, we are taught to succeed within a system instead of being taught to build something out of the system. And we've become really good at succeeding within that system. We learn the rules, we learn the ropes, and we delivered results. We performed really well. But the tug that starts to happen, especially in high achieving women who have achieved really remarkable success is they start to feel this pull of purpose getting louder within them. I don't know if you have a sense of that in your own journey where you can feel purpose getting louder. You may not be able to specifically name it, but something in you has become relentless. And even as purpose becomes louder to you, the fear of breaking away from what you have been able to achieve and what you have been able to accomplish, and quite honestly, what has become a necessity for your family, for your lifestyle, breaking away from that begins to bring in fear. The fear becomes stronger as purpose gets louder. And this is when we start to confuse stuck with the calling to go bigger, to evolve, to stretch, and to grow. And what I want to say to you is that you're not stuck because you're confused. That is not the case. You are very clear. You have clarity every day on what it is you need to do, how you need to show up, how you drive the success and the results that you make happen in the workplace. So you're not stuck because you are confused. The stuck part comes in because you have now been conditioned to suppress what you feel you are called to do now. It almost becomes this tug of war, this friction within you where you feel called to do something and you also feel conditioned to maintain what has always worked. Now, for many, and again, I'm just recapping what we talked about yesterday, because as we move into today's discussion, you need to have the willingness to be available for this conversation, and you'll put up a guard. You'll start to put up a guard if I don't try to reckon with this hard pill that we have to face and swallow. When someone has made it to the top, the thought of pivoting, the thought of changing, the thought of putting everything they have achieved at risk just seems unthinkable. It seems that way because your success has come along with accomplishments. It has come along with accolades. It has come along with recognition. It has come along with strong compensation, like all of the things that check the box of what good success looks like. You are checking all of the boxes. But that tug of war that you're starting to feel within yourself, that friction that you're starting to feel because purpose is getting louder, it is starting to challenge some things. And one of the biggest challenges that starts to occur when you feel like you're called to do something different, when you feel like something about where you are no longer fits, is it challenges your identity. You're not used to feeling unclear. You're used to having all of the answers. So this challenge to your identity, it starts to disrupt what you believe makes logical sense. You have built your success on being competent. You have built your success on being confident. You have built your success on being capable. And so admitting that you even feel stuck, or that you even feel uncertain or possibly unfulfilled feels like failure. Having to admit those things, having to admit I'm stuck, having to admit I'm uncertain, having to admit I feel unfulfilled, that feels like failure even when it's not. You see, you're evolving, and we are all destined to evolve. You have evolved and blossomed beautifully within your career. And this now tug, this now pull that you're feeling is saying that your identity needs to take on new form. It needs to take on new shape. But nothing's broken. Like nothing is wrong with where I am. And so you start to ask yourself, how can I be this successful and still feel like something is missing? And that question, it feels very disoriented. It almost feels shameful because your success says it should not be the case that I feel like I don't know. It should not be the case that I feel like something is missing. And so when you start to have these questions, it feels very out of sorts. It feels very disorienting because you're being beckoned to evolve. The second reason that we discovered that it makes you question the system that you work so hard to master. You start to ask yourself like questions like, this is it? Isn't there more here? There should be more that feeds into me. And you've spent years playing by the rules. You earned the degrees, you've attained the promotions, you did the hard work to do that, you've earned the titles, and then you get all of those things and you're thinking that the same systems that conditioned you are now not allowing you to flow into what you feel called to do. And it almost feels like a little bit of a betrayal. It almost feels like, I know the playground here. I know the rules here. And in fact, I have scored well here. I have achieved a lot here. And so you mean to tell me that this next thing that I want to do is not going to align with who I feel like I'm being called to become? And so you start asking yourself, am I climbing the right ladder? Am I in the right place? Have I been devoting my time to the right things? And you got there because you learned how to play well. So how is it that the thing you learned to do well is now somehow holding you back? This is the friction that you're starting to feel within. The next thing that makes this hard, right, when we're feeling stuck, is you've been the go-to person for everyone. And so asking for help, like, what do you mean? I'm the one that brings the answers. I'm the one that brings the solve. So this completely feels foreign to you because the uncertainty is saying to you that you need help. The uncertainty is saying to you that you can't figure it out on your own. The uncertainty feels very foreign to what you're used to operating within. It almost makes you vulnerable in some way, and it feels absolutely risky. You have always been the answer for so many people who needed guidance, for so many people who needed direction all around you. You have led your teams fearlessly. And now you have to admit that you need support. And that almost feels like weakness. And we as high performing women, we don't do weakness. We don't do weakness. I want you to know that stepping into entrepreneurship is not abandoning anything about who you are. It's an evolution of who you truly can become. Who you truly can become. And it will require that you begin to think of success in a different way. And I think the thing most of all that makes this feel completely different, just to kind of recap what we covered yesterday, is you did everything right, but you still feel the pull for more. That's not just frustrating. That can almost feel like ungratefulness. Feeling the tug for more when everything seems to be in your favor, it really forces you to reconcile being grateful for what you have built, even though you're no longer fulfilled by it. And that's a big struggle because you have achieved so many great things beautifully in your career. You have checked many boxes and you've done so many amazing things right. But it just feels crazy that something feels off. Something feels disconnected. And it feels like stuck when really it's an invitation. It's an invitation to grow and evolve. So if you missed day one, that was a little bit of what I covered yesterday as a part of the series. I want to invite you to go to www.jointhelivestream.live. That's where you can register and get access to the replays once I release them. And you can take the journey, the full journey of what I covered on day number 1. This is the type of work that I do. I help women break the cycle and reconnect with their purpose and finally build a business in their life that they have been called to lead. So now let's get into day 2, because this is where we are. We are on day 2, and we're asking ourselves, what business should I start? So if you've gotten past the point of needing clarity and you have been able to understand that it's got to be you moving forward, but beyond what you feel stuck in, and it's got to be you really giving yourself a chance. The question that often paralyzes us is, what business should I start? And so I wanted to take some time today to help shift us from just this awareness of needing to start something into alignment. Alignment with what you feel like you're being called to do. When you've been saying to yourself, I want to start a business, but I don't know what it should be. If you have said that, then this session today is absolutely going to be for you. And I can't wait to get into these next slides. So before I do that, let me just introduce myself again, just in case we have not met before. If your resume says executive, but your calling says entrepreneur, then you are in the right place. I'm Denise Taylor, and I help ambitious women go from corporate to entrepreneur with clarity, confidence, and a winning strategy that rivals those you've led in the boardroom. I know for myself, I can spot a good strategy. I can assess a good strategy. I know if this is strategically going to help us move forward because I've looked at so many plans throughout my entire career. And so as I formulated my approach to going from corporate to entrepreneur, I brought all that to the table to establish an approach that is strategic to get you from idea to income. I want you to make the impact that you're called to make, but also make money. This journey is not just about launching a business. When you go from corporate to entrepreneur, there's more at stake than just launching a business. This is a big part of the experience, but it is not the sum total. You are becoming who you are called to be. And for high achieving corporate women, it's a shift from success to significance, from comfort to clarity, and ultimately from being an executive or an employee to the CEO of your own brand and empire. I am a corporate executive turned business strategist and coach. And I lead high achieving women out of corporate comfort into purpose-driven profit with clarity, courage, and confidence. I help people make bold pivots. I sharpen business offers, and I really help women rediscover their calling with a mix of strategy, spirit, and substance that turns potential into what I love to call power plays. I founded Corporate to Entrepreneur because I wanted to make sure that I brought to the table everything I wish I would have known when I made that pivot just a few years ago. I stepped into full-time entrepreneurship in 2022, and I have been building an amazing firm and brand since then. And my desire is to help those women who know they are called to make that same journey a reality for themselves. So that's a little bit about me. Now, on day 2, we're talking about what business to launch. Going from this mentality of being stuck to strategic, you need a strategy, one that can fit in the boardroom that should rival those you've managed in the boardroom. The truth is, you have led projects, big deal projects. You have led enterprise-wide projects. You have overseen massive budgets. You have overseen departments. You have scaled results. And all of that was done with strategic planning. So you understand the value of having a great plan. So why would your business deserve anything less? It is so extremely important that when you make the pivot from corporate to entrepreneur, that you do it with a strategy that will deliver the results in the same way you did every day in your career. Your experience has taught you to drive performance, but I'll be honest with you, it has not taught you how to build a business from scratch. You know how to execute a great strategy inside the machine. But now, as you pivot outside, you're building the machine from scratch. And that means you need a different kind of clarity. One of the mistakes that I see people often make is they believe I have this expertise within my corporate career, so it should just parlay over easily. It should just go to work easy for me. But what you're doing when you step into entrepreneurship is you have to have a different understanding, a different sense of clarity. And it's one that is rooted in who you are and not just what you've done. Boardroom level women need boardroom level strategy. We don't need guesswork. We don't need free templates. We don't need scattered advice. We need to feel good about it, just like when we are evaluating consultants that are coming in to pitch to our organizations. You also need a strategy because you got more at stake. And that's just the reality. You're not 22 testing out a side hustle. That's not where you are in your life. You have built a lifestyle. You have built a reputation. You have built a track record. And all of that is extremely valuable. And you don't want to put it at risk. You want to leverage it as you move forward. So making this move from corporate to entrepreneur needs to be a smart, aligned, and worth it move for you to take. This is your legacy lane that you are stepping into. This is not about another job. This is not about another assignment. This is about building the legacy that you're going to create that's going to stand on the foundation of your corporate experience. So why would you build that like a side project when it really needs to be treated like your next empire? And the reason why this is important is because when you're making a decision about what business to start, you're not looking to just start a side hustle. You're not looking to start a project. You're looking to start something that has a foundation that can hold you up. You need to treat this like your next empire. And then the last reason why strategy is extremely important is because your zone of genius deserves a platform, not a scramble. It deserves a foundation, not a scramble. You have sat in rooms making $1 million decisions. And now it's time to bring that same intentionality to your own next chapter. So the reality is when we start talking about what business to build, we don't need fluff and we don't need quick. We need a framework and a coach who can help you pull out all of your brilliance into a business that's positioned to be profitable. This is the language that you understand because this is the level that you operate at. And it's extremely important that you don't cheat yourself when it's time for you to make your pivot and become an entrepreneur. So let's talk about what keeps you in the loop. And what loop I am talking about is this spiraling thought Should I? Shouldn't I? Should I? Shouldn't I? It's this loop that keeps going round and round, and it's been playing in your head for a while. You've been thinking about your business, and then you back away because you consider all of the factors and the things you've achieved and everything that has to be taken into consideration. You consider all of that, so you keep yourself in the loop. And there's a few things that really drive that. The real honest answer is you don't lack ideas. You can come up with ideas all day long. But what you lack is a clear framework for deciding what is the right idea to pursue. You don't lack ideas. You lack a clear framework for deciding what is the right idea to pursue and how to test it in the marketplace. The second thing that can sometimes keep us in the loop is imposter syndrome. We start thinking we're not enough and we can't do it, even though we have real evidence of our success, real evidence of our value, real evidence of our achievement. For some reason, when we think about this, we think that we are not able to achieve it. That is a lie. And your own experience proves that you are well able to do it. The last thing that keeps us in this loop or in our head, as I would love to say it, is the fear of choosing wrong. We are so fearful of choosing wrong. Am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to choose the wrong thing? And it's because you're so used to succeeding in structured places that creating something from the beginning, creating something from a fresh, new perspective feels unsafe. It's not unsafe. It just needs a framework. It needs a plan. It needs a strategy. And that is the difference of working with someone who is not trying to tee up a side hustle for you, but is really looking to help you build your legacy. You're afraid of wasting your time. And I get that because I do not like my time wasted. You're also afraid of looking foolish. And I get that too, because I do not like looking foolish. And you're also afraid of picking something that won't work. So you continue in the loop and you don't pick anything at all. And you operate under this guise that there is a perfect idea. And you keep saying to yourself, when I get the perfect idea, and I will tell you the perfect idea is a myth. Because with a plan and a strategy, you can move forward. The plan and strategy will dictate what you should move forward with and why. I am big on making sure you understand how and why you are making the decision, why you are doing the things that you're doing, so that as you're running your business, as you're building your empire, you will be in the CEO seat and understand why every aspect of your business is operating the way that it does. So the truth about the perfect idea, here's the truth about the perfect idea, is that you don't choose it, you design it. And let me say that again. You're not picking from a list. You're designing something aligned with who you are. So this perfect idea is not about picking something perfect. It's about designing something that fits you. The truth is, you already have all of the ingredients. Everything that is necessary shows up in your zone of genius. Everything that is necessary shows up in your expertise. It's who you have been created to be, and it's what you see happening all of the time. And I'm going to give you some very specific things in just a bit on how you can identify that. But the thing I want to really disrupt is that you're not picking from a list. That's not how you build significance. That's not how you build empires. That's not how you create legacies. Those things come from who you have been created to be. Those things come because they're aligned with who you are. And I wanted to just talk through I wanted to talk through some examples of where choosing instead of designing goes completely wrong, because we see this happen all of the time because it can't go the distance. It can't see it all the way through when you start it. So there is this thing I call the copycat trap. You see someone else killing it with a coaching business or with a boutique candle line, so you decide to do the same thing. But here's the thing, it never felt right to you. You were simply imitating a model and not building from alignment. You end up drained, you end up disconnecting, and you end up doubting yourself because you are copying someone else's blueprint instead of building from your own. And this is because the copycat trap makes you follow hype and not purpose. And one of the things that I take you back to in my framework is, what have you been called to do? What is your zone of genius? Shine a light on your brilliance, because that is your purpose. And the key takeaway when you're thinking about the copycat trap is, if it doesn't come from you, it won't work for you. Let me say that again. The key takeaway of trying to follow someone else or trying to do it the way they did it, we can definitely learn. I believe that success leaves clues. So I'm not saying we can't learn, but copying exactly what someone else has done and not aligning with what you've been called to do, if it doesn't come from you, it's not going to work for you. And so part of the experience in working with me is, we're going to figure out what your purpose is, and we're going to figure out how to position it in the marketplace so that you can begin to attract your target audience, not chase your target audience, attract them. The second thing that we kind of run into is starting a business based on your job title. Well, I've been in HR for 15 years, so I guess I'll be an HR consultant. And that sounds good. That sounds good on the surface, and that may be exactly what it needs to be for you, but it's not necessarily HR that lit you up. It was the mentoring, it was the coaching, it was the creative strategy for dealing with people problems that lit you up more so than HR. And so being able to dig under the covers to see what it really is, so that we can design a business to really shine a light on that brilliance, is where the difference is made. The business in that case, where you're just trying to parlay your corporate role into what you're going to do in your business, what often happens is you are trying to reflect on your history and not your calling. You're trying to reflect on what used to work, which was good for its time, but we really have to take a pause and see, what is the calling now, and what is the zone of genius that's coming to the surface that's going to connect to you being fulfilled. The takeaway here is, just because you're good at it doesn't mean you're meant to build a business around it. So taking time to really tap into purpose is a powerful step, because it may not be, I've been doing it for 15 years, so I'm going to do it on my own, as the right move for you. There takes some assessment to really begin to understand, what aspect of you should the business be built around. And then finally, what I find, I like to call this one the skill stack burnout. You got 10 different things you can do well, so you just try to do all 10 of them. You talk to some people and they're like, and I got this, and I got this, and I got this, and I got this, and I can do that too. They're afraid to really hang their hat on the thing that they feel called to do, so they just try to do everything. They try to light up all the paths. And most of these people who operate in this way, they are run down, ragged, and they are not making money, because they are not blazing a trail in any lane, which means that they are only getting bottom feeder activity across the board, rather than going after it strategically to get bigger numbers. So offering everything to everyone, you designing, you writing, you coaching, you the admin help, whatever they need done, that's what you're showing up to do. It sounds cute, It sounds cute, but it doesn't allow you to grow anything consistently. So without focused messaging and without an aligned offer, you look so unclear to everybody. And you're wondering why people don't buy from you, because today you offering this and tomorrow you got that. And the next day you have something different. So your business isn't designed around alignment. It's confusing. It's confusing for you when you talk about it, and it's confusing for your audience too. And so one of the reasons why we don't just pick something off of the shelf, we design your business around who you are, is because connected to this is satisfaction and fulfillment. And we want to make sure that we're tapping into purpose so that you can indeed be satisfied and fulfilled. All right, so let's talk about that a little bit more. This next perspective that I want to just unpack a little bit is that alignment is greater than idea. The idea is absolutely important, but your business must be aligned with who you are for two key reasons. Alignment is going to drive sustainability, which means you'll continue in it, and it's going to drive success. The right business isn't always the most popular idea. And so that is one reason why I don't hang my hat and say you have to implement this kind of business. The only business I am going to tell you that you should implement is one that aligns with who you are, what you care about, and how you're called to serve. Let me say that again. The right business is not the most popular idea. And yes, a lot of people are speaking, a lot of people are coaching, a lot of people are doing a lot of things. It's very popular. But the business for you, the right business for you, is the one that aligns with who you are, what you care about, and how you are called to serve. Too many women are wasting energy trying to find out the best idea instead of creating an aligned one that fits them. You're not looking for a needle in a haystack. You're designing a blueprint that reflects your purpose, your strengths, and your voice. And I will tell you, the wrong idea, even if it's trendy, and even if it's profitable for a short time, will burn you out if it is not aligned. It will burn you out. And the right idea will energize you. It will continue to pull you forward. And that is so true. I can tell you, I have been over the moon excited about this live stream series. I was connecting with my mastermind group last night. I was telling them how excited I was to be back at the mic, to be talking about the corporate to entrepreneur experience. I spent literally all of Q1 going deeper into what executive corporate leading women are struggling with in this journey. And so I know from my own experience and from the research and study that I've done, this messaging is spot on, because alignment means the business feels like you. Not something that you're forced to do, not something that you have to fake, not something that you have to figure out. When you reach a certain point in your career, when you know you have outgrown where you are not trying to jump into another role and make yourself fit there. When you reach a certain point in your career, you want alignment. You want it to feel like you. And so what might be a good idea on paper, if it's not connected to something deeper in you, it will not last. An aligned business won't just make money. It'll make sense to you. It'll make sense to your clients, and it will make sense to the market you are called to serve. And so when we start talking about what is the right business to start, I just want to pick it up with what I said before. The right business to start is the one that aligns with who you are, what you care about, and how you are called to serve. That's the right business. And that is why Alignment is greater than idea. So let's keep going so I can get you out of here. I have kept you long enough. There are three things that come into play. I have a framework that I have designed when I help women go from corporate to entrepreneur. There's three factors that come into play, and that is purpose, positioning, and profit. And these three elements work together. They work together to ensure complete alignment, to ensure market value, and to ensure profitability. So when we talk about purpose, we're talking about what's meaningful to you. I don't get to judge it. I help you discover it. I help you build it. I help you to ensure that all the aspects around it are aligning to what is meaningful to you. What stories are meaningful to you, what values are meaningful to you, what experiences are meaningful to you. All of those things shape your desire to serve. And it is important to ensure that we remain happy, healthy, and helpful by tapping into purpose. And that's what drives the sustainability. The second thing, and this is by far my sweet spot, is helping you to understand your zone of genius and how to position it in the marketplace. This is where testing comes in. This is where messaging comes in. This is where understanding your target audience, their needs, their desires, what they want, and what they are designed to have solved for them is important. And positioning is the make or break to profitability. So there are a lot of people who show up to do a lot of great things, but they are poorly positioned in the marketplace. And that poor positioning is holding their profits at bay. And so if you are going to begin your journey from corporate to entrepreneur, it is extremely important that you don't just start a business. You have to understand the market cues and what they're saying to you so that you can drive profitability. And then finally, profit is what problem you can solve that people are willing to pay for. That is very key. There's a lot of people who are trying to solve problems that nobody is willing to pay for. So you've got to understand what problem you solve that people are willing to pay for. And how does solving that problem also support your life goals? I mentioned yesterday that when I started my business, one of my clear expectations and goals for my business was that I was going to be able to work from anywhere. That was a clear goal, a clear expectation. So when I established my business model, I could not establish a model that required me to be in one space. Now, everybody may not have that desire for the business, but that was one of the ones that was key for my life goals. So when I am talking about my business model, it has to be able to support that requirement that I introduce for my life goals. And so when we start talking about bringing all of those things together, because of where you are in the stage of your career, because of where you are in the stage of life, we cannot discount your expectations on how your time is going to fit into this business. The purpose gives the business the heart. Positioning gives the business a voice. And profit gives the business legs. So here's how I like to describe it every time I talk about my framework. My framework is simply purpose plus positioning equals profits. I'll say it again. Purpose plus positioning equals profits. We start with purpose. We position and we test and make sure that we're able to drive the results in a way that resonates with messaging that your target audience needs to hear you say about the problem you solve that they want to pay for. And that drives your profits. This brings all of those aspects together and it feels aligned because it starts with purpose. It starts with purpose. So I just wanted to give you some perspective because I talked a lot about identifying the thing that resonates most with you. And so I wanted to give you some very practical things that you can begin to do in this 1, 2, 3 kind of exercise. And you can take away and spend some time doing that. In fact, if you'd like to send me your responses to that, I would love to engage with you that way. You can respond to an email and I will take a look at what you put together. But I think when you're talking about identifying what it is that you are called to build, there's 3 key things that you can ask yourself to kind of hone in on what it should be. And the first thing is, what do people always come to you for? What are the things that people always seem to come to you for? And I know for me, I'll just use myself as an example for this particular instance. For me, it really is about strategic clarity when they feel stuck and overwhelmed. People come to me for that. Those are the kind of phone calls I get. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm thinking. They need some strategic clarity. It has always been the case. I have always been a problem solver. In fact, one of the things that I was given feedback on that I have never forgotten when I was in one of my early career manager roles is my director said to me, Denise, you get things done. And essentially he was saying, you solve problems, you get things done. I don't come back with problems that I'm passing off to leadership. I come back with solutions on how I took care of it. So I can always think strategically about how to move forward. I also get pegged for messaging help. You know, how to articulate something, how to tell the story, how to ensure that it's powerful and that it's precise. I also get pegged for guidance on how to move from idea to implementation. And so that's a big indication of what I do. Those are the things that people often come to me for. So my challenge to you is to identify 3 things that people always seem to come to you for, because that's going to give you a hint of your strengths. It's going to give you a hint of your zone of genius. It's going to give you a hint of your brilliance. The second thing that would be helpful for you to consider as you're trying to say to yourself, what do I build, is what problems am I passionate about solving? Now, I know in my career, I have solved a number of problems. I was in technology, so problems was the name of the game, and solutions, technical solutions, is what we were all about. But that doesn't mean I was passionate about solving those things, even though I did them well. So taking a step back and saying, what am I passionate about solving, right? I know for me, I'm passionate about making sure that women are not just throwing their brilliance away, that they are actually using their brilliance. And when I see them not having a path forward, I am passionate about bringing clarity to that. I'm passionate about saying, you're great at this. Here's a path forward. I'm very passionate about that. I'm also very passionate about making sure that high achieving women don't play small. I just had a coaching call last night where someone is looking to launch a product-based business. And I asked her what her money goals were. And we spent maybe 10 minutes with me helping her to understand that playing small on your money goal is not what we need to do. And she kept saying, but what if I can't keep up with the demand? I said, that's a problem we can solve. How to come and bring new solutions in to help you produce the product is something we can solve. But I don't want to see you play small. I don't want you to shrink and be afraid because it feels big. I want you to lean into the possibility of yourself. And so when I see high achievers playing small, I am passionate about making sure that they don't allow fear to rule. Another thing, I am passionate about the gap between purpose and profit. And I talked about this a little bit before. Positioning is the name of the game. Being very curious about what can you bring to the marketplace, especially as women step into entrepreneurship, they have to know how to position their purpose. That's what I'm passionate about. So you should ask yourself, as you are looking for what you are called to build, what are you passionate about? What are you passionate about? And then finally, the last thing that will help you to discover more is what people do you feel like you're drawn to serve? Like, what people do you feel like you are drawn to serve? Now, this is where messaging and positioning comes into play, because a lot of people may say, I feel drawn to serve the homeless, but unless somebody else is cutting the check for you to do that, typically homeless people don't have money to pay you, right? And this is where coaching comes in to help you identify, if you really feel called to serve them, how are we going to fund this? How are we going to attract the money that we need in order to see ourselves be successful in what we're trying to do? And so you have to ask yourself, who do you feel drawn to serve? And for me, I feel drawn to serve high achieving corporate women, executives that are looking to make this pivot and really build a business that reflects who they really are. I feel drawn to serve women who have done everything right on paper, but still feel unfulfilled. And I feel drawn to serve purpose-driven leaders who want to launch strategically and not impulsively. That's who I feel drawn to serve. And so if you'll take time to do this exercise for yourself. Hey there, Michelle, I see your comments. If you take time to do this exercise for yourself, you will probably discover that you are closer than you think. You are closer than you think to identifying what business you should move forward with. And I will tell you, gaining clarity in this space will set you light years ahead. And this is one of the things that I am so very intentional about making sure we nail when we work together. You're not stuck having to figure it out on your own. You'll have a partner who can come to the table and bring all of the prowess, all of the experience, all of the background, all of the strategy, and all of the insight to ensure that you're doing something that lights you up from the inside. I love it when I'm talking to potential people and they'll rattle off 2 or 3 different things. They'll be like, well, what about this or what about that? And then they'll say this phrase, but what I really want to do. And that's when I know we have gotten rid of the rubble and we are down and striking gold. When you get to what it is you really want to do, because your voice lifts up and you begin to feel very connected to that. So here's the thing. You are closer than you think. You don't need to find a business idea. You need to design it, and design it with intention to be in alignment with who you are. You already have the pieces. You already have the pieces. Let's build something that reflects your brilliance, not just something you've picked off the shelf. When purpose, positioning, and profits are aligned, your business will flow and you don't stay stuck in ideal mode. You begin to move forward with something that is absolutely real. And so I want to invite you. I don't want you to circle another idea another day. I want you to take action. We talked yesterday about when you're honest with yourself, you can indeed begin to move forward with action and you can learn in the process. You don't have to leap, but you do have to move. Successful, smart women stay stuck. Not because they're lost, but because they have outgrown the life that they have built. And I want you to know that there is a way forward and you don't have to burn everything down. You can get clear on what it looks like for you now. You can get unstuck by being honest with yourself and then being strategic. So I want to invite you to book a call with me. And the call is really, really simple. It's an interest call. So it's just to help you process where you are. And if there's something that I believe I can do to support you moving forward, I'll talk to you about it. But, hustling is not my game. So I'm not on there to try to press you to do anything, but I am there to encourage you to evolve and truly become who God has created and called for you to be. So today was good. I'm excited. I'm excited about today. I want to just affirm for you one last time that you've outgrown your role, not your purpose, and you can build what is next. I hope you will come for tomorrow. Tomorrow is our last day in this 3-day Lunch and Learn series. We're going to be talking about, if not now, when, in making the shift from dream to decision. Making the shift from dream to decision. And one last time, if you want a reminder so that you don't miss tomorrow, or if you want to have access to the replays, be sure to go to www.jointhelivestream.live. You'll get access to the replays. You'll get a reminder to join tomorrow so that you don't miss. And you will also get my corporate to entrepreneur clarity checklist as well. Today has been another amazing day, and I really appreciate you checking in with me. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.